Thanks very much to Index on Censorship for inviting me to talk. I'm glad you mentioned Jesus, who's a nice Jewish boy, who my mum would say just got a bit too big for his boots. But you know, Groucho Marx, not Karl Marx. I'd like to talk about the best kind of Marxism. Groucho Marx was once at a golf club, and they had a swimming pool there, and he was told that he wasn't allowed to go into the swimming pool because Jews weren't allowed. They'd made a bit of progress because of maybe 10 years before Jews were allowed into the golf club, so at least he thought that that's some sign of progress. And in fact, up until about 20, 30 years ago, a lot of golf clubs in this country Jews were excluded from, in my own city of Leeds, for example. So he said, okay, you're saying that I can't go into the swimming pool, I'm Jewish. He had married a non-Jewish woman. He said, well, you know, my kids are half Jewish. Is it all right if they go in just up to their waist? For me, that sums up why Jewishness is quite empowering and liberating, because two things. First of all, humour, and I think the humour, it's not just Jewish people who have a good sense of humour. We've just heard a very funny atheist. And obviously there's no monopoly on humour, but I think it's partly a response to, in some places, being persecuted. I wouldn't argue in this country at all, no, that Jews are, but in the past there's been a way of responding to persecution which is based on humour, and Groucho Marx and Mel Brooks and Woody Allen and Sarah Silverman. You know, you can go through a lot of great Jewish comedians. Now, the other thing, though, that speaks to is civil rights, and just to give a more serious point, Martin Luther King in the American Civil Rights Movement paid tribute to the large number of Jewish people involved. Numerous leaders took part in the March on Washington, the Anti-Defamation League, the American Jewish Committee, lots of rabbis, and one black leader in Mississippi estimated that as many as 90% of the civil rights lawyers in Mississippi were Jewish. Now, a number of rabbis were arrested and beaten up, and if anyone's seen Mississippi Burning, it starts with 3 young people being murdered, 2 white people and 1 black person, but the 2 white people are Jewish. Now, I only mention that because I think that there's almost a sort of part of our DNA is to fight against oppression, to speak truth to power, to laugh at power, to make fun of power. And I think that one of the things that has annoyed me, to finish with, is, if you know about this dispute, that what's really annoyed me about Anelka, the footballer who's made a neo-Nazi gesture, he made it in support of a comedian. You know, a comedian in France who pokes fun at Jewish suffering, who denies the Holocaust, who thinks that it's funny that millions of people died in the Holocaust. No.